Across the horizon, 18 Veilgates burned open, not as triumphs, but as wounds carved into reality itself. They opened onto places prepared in silence over centuries, lantern-lit valleys, hollowed mountains, forest sanctuaries seeded before most current bloodlines were born. This was not evacuation. It was exile. And exile required doctrine. The elven command made its choice early, cold, merciless, necessary. Quantity would guard the pylons. Quality would guard the people. 3 ancient, Glimmer Spires, pylons of silver-veined stone, rose from the shattered land like broken ribs of the world. Around each, entire formations entrenched themselves. Layered shield walls, rune artillery arrays, heavy constructs bolted into the earth, supply trains feeding an unbroken loop of reinforcement. The pylons were not meant to inspire. They were meant to endure. The Veilgates were different. There, where millions waited, elders, mothers, children, artisans, scholars, the elves placed what little greatness they could still spare. Royal Veilguards in ceremonial armor scarred by ancient wars. Umbral Blades embedded, so deeply among the shadows that even death could not find them easily. Bloodroot Berserkers who volunteered knowing they would not return. Earthward heavies whose shields had held since the first sieges of Bumi Kayangan. Tideward elites drawn inland, water veins flowing beneath cracked soil. Skyward strike cadres descending from smoke-choked clouds in spirals of wind and steel. And among them, fighting without banners or songs, the mortals. Senyap-Titah operatives moved in disciplined silence, embedded where the fighting was thickest. Gem-cored weapons learned from dwarves, refined through human ingenuity, hummed and flared as they tore through shadow forms that once shrugged off steel. Beastmen forged frames braced artillery that would have shattered lesser crews. They were slower. They were weaker. They died faster. Yet where mortals fought, the shadows paid dearly. Veilguards observed the pattern with interest.
They are protecting hope.
High above Pylon One, the clouds folded inward. Not storm. Not weather. Something circling with intent. High Wyrmlord Scar watched from the broken sky, wings beating in slow, deliberate rhythm. His many eyes tracked the battlefield with predatory, calculation shield formations, artillery cycles, reinforcement timing. Then he saw it. Merithiel, bound to the pylon's heart, her veil staff anchored deep into the rune ring, both hands steady, posture rigid not from fear but necessity. Power coursed through her in disciplined torrents, aligning 3 unstable realities at once. She could not move. Scar smiled. He rasped, voice carried on poisoned wind.
The lock reveals itself.
He descended. Not in a reckless dive, but a controlled, murderous glide. Shadow plating folding tight to his frame as he slipped through defensive fire. Ballistae screamed. Gem cannons flared. He ignored them all, because he did not need to kill Merithiel, only to disrupt her. At the perimeter, Kayangan felt it, that sudden wrongness in the air, the way the veil screamed before the mind caught up.
Contact!
He shouted. Too late. Scar punched through the outer line, shadow talons tearing apart a heavy emplacement as he surged, straight for the pylon core. Kayangan ran, not toward cover, not toward reinforcements, straight at the descending Wyrmlord. He leapt, blades igniting, driving them deep into Scar-Ul's neck, plating with a snarl of tearing metal and abyssal ichor. The Wyrmlord roared more in surprise than pain. Then, the ground answered. A spear of living tar erupted upward. Nyrissa. Her strike was not aimed at the Wyrmlord. It was aimed at Kayangan. The abyssal spike punched through his chest, lifting him off the Wyrm's back midair. His blades tore free as he was flung aside, body smashing into the stone ring surrounding the pylon. Hard, enough to crack ancient runes, enough to silence his breath. But it did what Kalanver intended. Scar-Ul was forced lower, too low, too close. Merithiel felt it, not as a tactical failure, not as a battlefield report, as loss. Her scream tore free, grief raw and unrestrained, laden with uncontrollable rage. A burden she had carried for millennia surged anew, ripping open old scars that had never truly healed. Not again. Not another one. The pylons' runes flared violently as her control wavered for a single, catastrophic heartbeat. Karen was already moving. She reached Kalanver first. Blood soaked the stones beneath him, dark and spreading, his breath coming in shallow, broken pulls. One hand twitched weakly, fingers searching. Merithiel knelt beside him despite herself. Her hand closed around his.
I held.
He whispered hoarsely, lips trembling into something that might have been a smile.
Didn't I?
Yes,
She said, voice breaking despite her will.
you did.
His grip tightened once, then loosened. Silence followed. Merithiel did not sob. She bowed her head, forehead resting briefly against his still hand. A single tear slipped free, fell from the edge of her eye, and vanished against blood-warm stone. Softly, only for him to hear, she whispered.
Who knows? Perhaps this time I get to join you.
She rose. Something inside her had settled. Not peace. Resolve. Karen looked at her then and froze. She had seen that expression before. Countless times. That calm acceptance. That quiet loosening of all restraint. But this time, it was different. This time, Merithiel looked relieved. Scar-Ul tried to climb. One wing shredded. Balance broken. Shadow plating burning where the pylon's radiance licked too close. He laughed anyway, ragged, defiant.
You break so easily.
He snarled, spiraling upward.
Your kind always does.
Karen answered first. She crossed the distance without sound. Her blade severed what remained of his left wing at the joint. The Wyrmlord screamed as gravity reclaimed him, his massive body slamming into the rune ring with a force that shook the pylon's foundation. Before he could rise, Merithiel moved. Her veil staff dissolved into light and reforged itself mid-stride, a veil sword, long and narrow, edges humming with compressed annihilation. Veilblade armament complete. She did not charge. She stepped. Once, twice, 20 times. Veilblade overdrive. Each step erased space itself, her form fracturing into silvery afterimages, blurred light, thunderless impact, inevitability made manifest. Scar-Ul tried to speak. Merithiel was already inside his guard. The veil sword pierced his chest. Not the heart. The core. Focus. Precise. Absolute. She twisted once. The Wyrmlord did not explode. He unraveled. Shadow matter peeled away in spirals of ash and broken screams, his form collapsing inward until nothing remained but drifting black motes scattered across the battlefield, like dying embers. No roar of victory followed, only stunned silence. Merithiel stood amid the falling ash, blade dissolving back into his staff as if nothing had happened.
If my hands were not full,
She said quietly, voice trembling beneath iron control.
none of you would still be alive.
Karen stepped to her side, blood dripping from her own wound, blades lowered.
It broke far too easily.
She said with a cynical grin on her face. The shadows withdrew. For now.
Alignment stable.
Vela cried, voice breaking.
Channel holding, now.
Isolde slammed the final conduit into place. The pylon roared. Silver light tore upward, reality screaming as the gateway stabilized. Legion banners lifted into the wind, soldiers turning one last time toward the burning world they were abandoning. Merithiel kept the channel open. held it, forced it to obey. When the last formation vanished into exile, the light dimmed to a controlled glow. Victory. Paid for dearly. Merithiel exhaled and finally allowed herself to turn. Her gaze found Kalanver's body. Just for a moment, no one interrupted her. She inclined her head slightly, an old warrior's farewell. Her lips moved, soundless this time. Then she looked away. Next pylon, she said. But Karen was watching her closely. She saw it, the subtle shift in posture, the quiet loosening of self-preservation, the way Merithiel stood like someone who had already made peace with dying. Karen had seen that look before, many times. This time, it scared her. The pylon's glow intensified as Merithiel stepped forward, staff biting into stone once more, runes flaring as she bound herself again to impossible burdens. Karen followed, closer than before, just in case. The Veilgates screamed, not metaphorically. Their arches groaned under pressure, runes stuttering as if choking on their own light. Every fixed portal was a wound forced open between worlds, never meant to endure siege, only passage. And so the shadows came there first. At Gate 11, the ground collapsed into a jagged ravine, as Mobrin surged upward in a tide of teeth and limbs. At Gate 13, wyverns screamed low, strafing evacuation lines, scattering refugees into choking smoke. At Gate 2, corrupted beasts smashed into the archstones again and again, each impact cracking ancient sigils older than memory. This was where the civilians ran. So this was where the best were sent. Not armies. People. Veterans with scars that predated the fall. Elites who volunteered, without being asked. Units who knew, truly knew, that this line was not meant to hold forever. Only long enough. Royal Veilguards locked shields before the arches, silver cloaks torn and burning, formations tightening every time the gates flickered. Bloodroot Berserkers stood knee-deep in shadow remains, roaring defiance as corrupted flesh burst against their axes. Each of them bore sigils of binding carved into their skin, oaths that allowed no retreat. Umbral Blades flickered in and out of reality, severing shadow commanders before they could issue orders, vanishing again into smoke and blood. From above, Tideward elites dragged corrupted sea creatures from the shallows, where the land dipped toward ancient waterways, hacking them apart before they could reach the fleeing masses. Skyward marksmen anchored grapples into broken spars, raining precision fire into wyvern packs, pulling themselves to new perches as structures collapsed beneath them, and threaded through all of it, mortals. At Gate 9, a new formation slammed into place. Gemstone-powered barriers unfolded with a sharp crystalline hum, interlocking into a translucent wall just as a wave of shadowhounds crashed against it. The impact rattled bones, but the barrier held. Behind it, human soldiers moved with sharp, disciplined urgency. Their armor was lighter than Bunian plate, their bodies weaker, their lives shorter, but their eyes, unflinching. Panglima Arif Sarandaya stood at the front, blade drawn, coat torn at the shoulder where Shadowfire had grazed him earlier. He did not shout. He did not need to.
Second line rotate now.
A unit peeled back seamlessly as another stepped forward, gemstone rifles flaring with veil-tuned pulses that staggered even the Mawburn.
Stabilizer team, left archstone. If it cracks, you seal it with your bodies.
No hesitation.
Yes, Panglima!